Wow, I can't believe you guys are already to almost the end of your decimal unit. The last thing that we have to do is figure out how to divide decimals by decimals. We've already done decimals divided by whole numbers, which is pretty easy. You just raise the decimal to the roof and divide like normal. Now we have to divide a decimal by a decimal. And you're probably thinking, why would I ever do this? Or when does this happen? Well, so let me tell you a little story about my little dog Spike. Isn't he cute? He is so cute that I've made a lot of movies about him. Look at him. Isn't he so cute? He looks really cute. I had to make some movies about him. So I made some movies and I put them onto a disc, okay, because I wanted to share them with people. Each of my amazing movies that I made takes up 26.5 megabytes of space on the DVD that I have, okay? How many of these movies can I put on my DVD if it only has 848 megabytes of free space? All right, that's the question that we need to answer, is we need to figure out if I took a whole bunch of movies of my dog and each one takes up 26.5 megabytes, how many of those movies can I fit on a DVD that has 848 megabytes of space? So my division problem would look like this if I was going to do the division, which I will later, but I'm just going to write it out for you. It would be 848 divided by 26.5. Okay? It's one whole DVD divided into groups of 26.5. Okay, so I want you to remember this problem. We're going to come back to it. It's kind of a difficult problem, so we're going to do some easier examples first. Okay, so go ahead and go to your next page. Okay, so what do you do if the divisor isn't a whole number? Now remember what our divisor is. Divisor is the number that does the dividing, or how many groups that we want. The number that does the dividing, or how many groups we want. It's also, the divisor is also the number outside the house. Okay, I'm going to write that down too. Okay, outside the house. So you can remember which one the divisor is. Okay, so let's just do a couple of simple problems. Okay, so for example, what if I just did a simple problem like this? 8.4 divided by 0.2. Okay, so what I'm asking here is, think about money, for example. What if I had $8.40? Let's write it like money. And I wanted to know how many groups of 0.2 can I get out of $8.40? 0.2 is the same thing as 20 cents. I want to know how many groups I can get out of that $8.40. So I cannot divide $8.40 by 0.2 without first getting rid of that decimal in the divisor. I'm not allowed to have it there. So I have to get rid of it. In order to get rid of it, I need to move it out of my way. Okay, so I need to move it out. I'm going to move it until it goes to the end. Okay, so I'm moving it, but if I do it to the divisor, I have to do the same thing to the dividend. So I have to take this decimal and move it one space as well. Okay, so my new problem now looks like this. 4.0 divided by 2. Okay, all I've done is move my decimal, but I had to do it to both the dividend and the divisor. Now I can just divide like normal, like you guys did in the last lesson. We raise the decimal to the roof. Okay, that's easy enough. And then we divide like normal. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. We subtract, we have 0. We have 0. Bring down the 4. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. Subtract. Bring down our 0. 2 goes into 0 0 times. We have 0 left over. So our answer is we can get 42 groups of 20 cents out of $8.40. Okay, pretty easy stuff, right? Let's try another pretty simple one. Okay, with a little bit bigger divisor. Okay, so what if I have this time, let's do, what if I have $10 and I want to know how many groups of nickels I can get out of that. So let's say I do $10 divided by 0.05. Okay, I've got a decimal in my divisor, so I have to move that out. I have to move it 2 places to get it out of there. If I move it 2 places in the divisor, I have to move it 2 places in the dividend, and so it goes right here now. We raise it to the roof, so it's way over here now, and then we divide like normal. Okay, so 5 goes into, let's see, 5 cannot go into 1, so we move right over to the 10. 5 goes into 10 2 times. Remember to always line up when you're doing division so that your answer stays on top of the number that you're dividing into. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract, we get 0. Bring down your 0. We can't forget about these zeros because our decimal's way over here. 5 goes into 0 0 times. We multiply, we get 0. Still a lot of zeros. And we really don't have to keep doing all this dividing, but we do have to fill in the zeros on top. If there are holes on the roof, you have to fill them in with zeros. Okay, so make sure you patch up all your holes. I'm going to put a little note up here at the top. Let's put a little star on it or something so that we know. Okay, so let's put a star here and let's say, don't forget to patch the holes on the roof. Don't forget to fill all holes on the roof. Okay, all right, let's do a few more examples. Go ahead and go to your next page. Okay, so we've got several examples here. I have my little circle over here again. This circle is where I'm going to write in the number of decimal places that I have to move. So we're going to use that. So if we look over here, we see that we have 1 digit behind the decimal place. So that means that I need to move the decimal 1 place. So let's just write it like that. And okay, let's go ahead and do the next problem. In this problem, the problem is 21.3 divided by 0.3. What that's saying is how many groups of 0.3 are there in 21.3? Or if you were thinking of money, how many groups of 30 cents are there in $21.30? So let's rewrite the problem. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Make this a little bit bigger so we've got some more room. And let's write the problem. 21.3 divided by 0.3. I'm going to switch colors here so it's a little bit easier. Now the first thing that you need to do, and let me go ahead and make this pen just a little bit wider too. The first thing you want to do is bump the decimal. Okay, so this one needs to bump 1 place to make it a whole number. Whatever you do to the divisor, you need to do to the dividend. Move it over 1 place, and then while you're moving it over, just bring it straight up and place it on the roof. I'm going to make it kind of big so it's obvious. And then divide like normal. 3 cannot go into 2, so I'm going to put a 0 here. 3 can go into 21 7 times. 7 times 3 is 21. Subtract, you get 0. Remember to bring down the 3. Every single time you bring down, so every time you have an arrow, you must repeat and divide again. 3 goes into 3 1 time. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtract, 0 left over. That's very easy. Our final answer is 71. So there are 71 groups of 30 cents in $21.30. That seems reasonable and makes sense. So always remember to divide, just like you've been taught, and to bump the decimals. Let's go ahead and do another example. Okay, let me just move this, make sure you have that okay. And let me move this and we'll do 864 divided by 0.6. So let's write the problem down over here. 864 divided by 0.6. Again, the first thing you need to do is bump the decimal over one place. Now, in this situation, you have $864 divided by 0.6. So we're asking how many groups of 60 cents can we get in $864? There is no decimal that we can see in 864, but hopefully you remember that if you do not see a decimal, it is at the end. We still need to bump it because we bumped it over here in the divisor, sorry. So we need to bump it one time over here by adding a 0. When you bump it, go straight up to the roof and place it on top. Okay, always do the bumps and then raise it at the same time. Then let's divide. 6 goes into 8 one time. 1 times 6 is 6. Subtract 2 left over. Bring down the 6. 6 goes into 26 4 times. 4 times 6 is 24. Subtract 2 left over. Bring down the 4. 6 goes into 24 4 times. 4 times 6 is 24. Subtract 0 left over. Bring down the 0. 6 goes into 0 0 times. Yes, you must go ahead and divide even when there's a 0 down here, because if you don't, you would end up, you have to go ahead and, even when there's 0, if you've brought down, you need to divide again. Otherwise, you would be left with a hole in the roof, and we do not want to have a hole in the roof. There should be filled in with zeros. You can multiply again one last time, and then you have 0 left over. So our final answer is 1,440. Okay, that makes sense that there are 1,440 groups of 60 cents in 864. Good job so far. Okay, in order to wrap up this lesson, let's talk about a couple of reminders. There should never be any decimals in your divisor. Whatever you do to the divisor, you must do to the dividend. This is super important. Do not be afraid to add zeros. That's also very important. So if you're trying to bump your decimal and there are no places to bump it, you need to add some zeros in order to be able to make that happen. Okay, let's go back to the original example about Spike and how many pictures we can put of Spike on our disk. Okay, so let's go back and do that. So remember, we have a DVD that has 848 megabytes of space on it. Each of the movies that I made about my dog Spike are 26.5 megabytes. We want to know how many of those movies will fit on the DVD that is 848 megabytes of space on it. So the way we would do the problem is 848 divided by 26.5. So let's go ahead and write this down. Okay, divided by 26.5. Okay, the first thing we should do is bump our decimal. Over here we don't see the decimal, so we will add it. We'll add a 0. We'll bump it and go straight to the roof. And then we need to divide. Okay, so this is a big number. It's a 3-digit number. So we would want you to use a calculator to see how many times this will go into the number. 265 will obviously not go into 8, so we will put a 0 here. It also will not go into 84, but it will go into 848. So 848 divided by 265 is 3. We will place a 3 on top of the 8 and multiply 3 times 26.5. 3 times 26.5, or 265, would be 795. When we subtract, 8 minus 5 is 3. We must borrow here. 14 minus 9 is 5, and 7 minus 7 is 0. Then we should come over here and bring down our 0. How many times will 265 go into 530? That will be 2 times. 2 times 265 happens to be 530. and we get 0 left over. So our final answer is 32. So this means that we can place 32 movies on this DVD. Okay? Go ahead and add one more page. And we're going to do one more problem that might end up with a little bit of a crazier answer. So let's just see what we can come up with here. Let's do 321 divided by 0.7. Or how about 0.07? And let's see what happens. Okay, so 321 divided by 0.07. First thing we want to do is bump our decimal 2 places to get it to be a whole number and to the wall. Whatever we do to the divisor, we must do to the dividend. So add a decimal, add 2 zeros because you need to bump it 2 times. Make your house a little bit longer and bring the decimal straight up to the roof. And now divide like normal. 7 cannot go into 3, so we'll place a 0 there. 7 can go into 32 4 times. 4 times 7 is 28. Subtract. 12 minus 8 is 4. Bring down the 1. 7 goes into 41. Let's see, that would be 5 times. 5 times 7 is 35. If we subtract, we get 6. Let me squish this up just a little bit so we've got more room. And we will bring down our 0. Divide again. 7 goes into 60. 8 times. 8 times 7 is 56. Subtract. Never forget your borrowing. 10 minus 6 is 4. Bring down our last 0. 7 goes into 40. That will be 5 times. 5 times 7 is 35. Subtract, we get 5 again. Okay, now what? We have told you that we are not allowed to have remainders anymore. So what should we do? We cannot just leave the 5 hanging out there. We have to add another 0 and bring it down. Okay, 7 goes into 50. How many times? That would be 7 times. 7 times 7 is 49 with another remainder of 1. Now what do we do? Well, it kind of depends on the problem. Sometimes the problem will tell you to round to the nearest tenth. Sometimes it will say round to the nearest hundredth. Sometimes it will say use a repeating bar. You kind of have to look at the problem and see what makes sense. In this case, we have a pretty long answer, 4,585.7, with a little 1 down there. Let's go ahead and divide one more time so that we can round our answer. So we'll add one more 0, bring it down. 7 goes into 10. I'm sorry that I'm running out of space a little bit, and I can't really squish it up anymore, but I'll bring it up here. So 7 times 7, 7 goes into 10 one time. 1 times 7 is 7. We subtract and we get 3. So let's go ahead and round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to just write that right here. Round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so the tenths place is right here. We would look next door, see that we have a 1. 5 or more means to add 1 more when we round. 4 or less, just ignore. So we would leave the 7 the way it is. And our final answer would be 4,585.7. Okay, if you find yourself in a situation where the number that you get down here just keeps repeating and every single time you get the same number up here, you would draw a little line like over the last digit that repeats on and on and on, and that's also fine. Okay, the one thing we do not do anymore is have a remainder. Okay, I hope this helps, and I hope you guys do a great job with dividing decimals by decimals. This is the last concept in Unit 1, and you will be soon ready to go on to the birthday cake unit. Bye for now.